fences and the steep roofs to shuffle off the snow. Or at least the room inside that I have is a sobe. It's more functioning as a kind of a hostel Boban and his mother's home. There's a large room up there that's got a bunch of people I think know each other in it, and then adjacent to that is one room with 2 beds, and then adjacent to that, and part of it almost with a separate door, is my room with just 1 bed, but there's kitchen and so forth. It smells like mammoth lace, the smell of pine trees, and it's a lot cooler up here than it is down at the ocean or down at the water level. To find out where everything is, I'll spend 2 full days here, balance of today and whatever time I need to spend before I can get a bus on the 4th day. I think rooms for rent, at least everybody's home has been converted for that function, but who wants that? So Boban met the bus right here. He knows, of course, all the times the buses come in. Nobody else approached me, maybe because he dominated the situation, but he did it straightforwardly and nicely and in English. But I can always walk back that way. Simple, but nicely kept, it looks like. Some varying degrees of modernity versus others. On this walk into town is to figure out how I get access to the national park, what my options are, also get something to eat. Wood, but very nice, and it has amenities for the kids, so it's good to see that this tourism is translating into something of value locally in addition to the sobes. And you can see we're getting more towards the center of town. The center of the town, I'm thinking. You can see the extent of the town off there, but not too much density when you get a little ways out. Something big going in here, of course. That's pretty good size. Things you notice up here is the high use of wood, which is rare throughout the Balkans that I've seen in the last 2 months. Everything's made out of stone and orange bricks. That this business is well on its way in the summer in preparation for the fall. Black Lake before sunset. For my sobe, which would give a building inspector a heart attack. Steep, non-conforming stairs with a ledge that you can bang your head on if you're not warned and are ever vigilant. A narrow stairway and no railing. But what I have is this room here. This is mine, just for me. How cool is that? There's my little table and light, and I got my power there to charge up my video. And look outside here. Nice and cool. It's actually going to be cold tonight, which is neat after being down in Kotor, which is very hot. Even at night it's pretty hot until late in the evening. This is quiet. I won't need my earplugs tonight. And except for the crosscuts with a saw. There are thousands of 500-pound frogs and toads, at least it sounds like it. Can't see anything. That many 500-pound frogs and toads can hide. In my camera, I don't know, but they're doing it. The camera's looking straight at the area where all that noise is coming from. They almost sound like ducks. I think it's either mating season or somebody stole somebody else's fly. You can see stuff moving down there. The grass is moving. It looks like the map. See that bulge right there? The spur looks like that spot. More than 500 pounds. More activity since all the ripples suggest that. I go right where that line is. You can see it right in the middle right there that I've drawn right next to what looks like a P. She said it was just before. What I got was the entrance office to the park. And that's all right there. So in theory that should be that route there. Dogleg, or J, if you see it. That's where that road is. It's spurring off to my right, which makes sense, and at the end of that should find the beginning of a trail or a pathway that leads to this intersection right here, and then I go north where it says the O underneath the Z, and then to the northwest up this way. Speak whatever this language is. Terres and Bogaz. Trail directions, but it is meaningless to me. Even looking at the map, it seems meaningless. Things so far that I can deduct or deduce what 112 stands for. I have no clue. It should be a trail marker though. Red on top, red on the bottom of the white. And I'm looking for where the trail goes up here. Jez Jablan. I think that's going to make some sense in my map. Jablan Zero. I think zero may mean lake. I'm going to, so that's good. Bottle of water here as a cache. Upward trail. Very reasonable signage in the system that they use. Barno Jejero, however you pronounce it. And what I think it is, on the map I believe it's a lake. There we can see it over there through the trees, and probably a lake that's converting itself into a swamp, or a meadow rather, as down here. Trees. If it were Yellowstone or Teton, I'd expect to see animals over there, but I don't think there are any here. I don't know. Good with this system that it's what I've always endorsed, and that is ideally from each sign you should be able to see the next. And here's the sign on the left, and I can already see the next sign. Sometimes it seems like there's too many signs. Probably good for cross-country skiers too. Notice the signs are high on the trees. You can see by the stumps, but it's a pretty forest, and fortunately now it's protected. Really significant intersection. There's actually a road behind me. This is that little lake we looked at, so this must be an informal road, or formal road, but not used much, down to that lake. Although it's got to be one of the most mosquito-infested places you can imagine, unless you've been to one in Yellowstone. And so here's the road, but I'll continue up this way, I believe. Section right there in the middle. And we're proceeding up this way. Pretty little farm complex, a couple of houses in the barn. Trail continues, it appears, up along this road. Again, over there, and come out of the trees. On the other side of the hill, there's no sign at all, not one, until you get down here and see this faint old sign. Why the lapse? Third world irresponsibility, and you find it here occasionally. This is it. This is the level of signage now. And not take what looks to me like a main trail. So I just have to make a loop. And I'll start on the left side. After searching to the left, over there and over there, nothing. Finally found a trail, which ironically disappears right in there. And then there's just a trail here, but there's an even bigger trail there. You can see responsible marked trails like this. You want to make sure you keep looking behind you in the hopes that something will be triggerable on your way back and you'll recognize where you are. Behind me, the trail's marked again when you least need it, because here the trail's pretty obvious. There's a trail there, there's a trail there, here's a trail here. I just happened to see a faint marking over here. Nothing on the trees. The red, white, red. I don't have a real clue as to which of these three trails is the correct one. This is the middle one. There appears to be a trail down there. There's a star. I don't know what that means. Trail that I could be sure of. The last 100 yards, I find this, which I'm guessing must mean we go to the right. This trail, there are at least some faint, older signs. Or what looks like a creek bed is apparently the trail. But one of the problems is because there's no trail maintenance, of course, when the horse packers can't get past it, tree is not going to be removed for a century or two, and so they create a second trail. Now, it's not too big a deal here, but this is one. Spectacular views portend bazillion mosquitoes too. Seen anybody except for the people working their farms. Yellow flower on a long stem. colors and the flowers and the butterflies. It may have been for camping a long time ago, or a map seems to show something like a chairlift, but I really don't know that that's what the map shows. It's just a strange thing. This may be connected to that. To shelter people, there's a campfire ring in there to bring this lumber up here. Looks like a cirque. It is a cirque. Those walls are too vertical for anything else. Violet got too close to the water. Don't think he's alive. Covered this rock already has a resident predator. You can bet he believes in God. For a lovely campsite, magnificent campsite. Years ago, you would have expected to see mountain goats scampering along those cliff edges. Maybe a grizzly working its way down, or some kind of bear. Some deer, maybe some kind of elk type thing. But I don't think there's anything left. My first view when I looked up from the trail. Now, interesting bird call. There's the occasional cow that wanders up here. Due south, look at that mountain range way over there. It's a magnificent country, this Montenegro. Yet to be discovered for sure. Side hill to look over on this side, but I think it's probably just the valley where the park is in Zablak. National Park, all the way back from Jablon Lake. This looks like a clover flower. Maybe it's from that family. It's something different, but I can't tell until it flies. Only now am I encountering people coming up, what I call the jabberers. They apparently open their wings just like a bird would use its wings for balance. That's her nest, and there's some, I heard some cheeping in it, that's why. Now she's getting a little upset at me. Maybe this is what Abe Lincoln's split rail fence looked like. These two artifacts give us an idea what this forest used to look like. Interestingly, somewhere in Montenegro are one of three patches, the only three patches of original, I think it's called a boreal, I'm not sure if that's the right term. What's interesting is if you're a nearby business, you can advertise in the park like this. Yeah, I love the signage. And now here it's going one way. The cook's going that way, which I don't know where I was actually. Here we are, I believe, at Black Lake. This lake apparently goes to the big lake. And it's interesting, I haven't met anybody on this trail. So we're looking at this upside down. I'm in the lower middle. At the very bottom you'll see a red line coming vertical up to what I think is 1416 upside down. If I go left, I can extricate myself to town. If I go right from here, I can walk around the lake. So let's go walk around the lake. Behind that island will be what appears to be a second lake, but it's just I think another part of this lake, if you see what I mean. Depends on how you choose to interpret it. Okay, here's an interpretive site, an educational site, and it's in English and this language, so let's better take advantage of it, show respect for that effort. Millbrook. Moraine, of course, glaciers. California trout's an interesting idea. Nice bridge and a water gauge. There's the second little lake area, if you will, of this lake. It'd be lovely to kayak here. Effort has to be applauded. Here's a map. Here's a welcome to National Park Durmitor in English. It's discussing the town. The town was named Varese Water, coming from the strong source of fresh drinkable water. Later on, it was called a novi, used to mark the place where trading caravans used to stop and have a rest. From 1870, they built a church, and that's when it's got its name, Zablajak. Some of the villages around Zablak are centuries old. Military monuments that are 8 centuries old. Canyon Valley of River Tara. Big bridge, wherever that is. The monastery. And it looks like, in theory, there are these large animals. Here there's a description of Black Lake. Natural. Black Lake, a glacial lake, one of 18, known as mountain eyes. It's fed by rain, surface flows, and underground sources of water, including from Mill Brook that we looked at a few moments ago. This is curious. Its activity, I'm not sure what that activity is they're referring to, it's followed by cracking, which starts due to pushing of air pillows from underground canals under the big water pressure. During the year when the water inflow on Salina Lake is bigger, water from Small Lake flows into Big Lake, but during the rest of the year, water from Big Lake inflows to Small Lake. This is causing a natural phenomenon called bifurcation, the outlet of water into 2 different directions in 2 different rivers, Piva and Tara. During the summer period, the natural border between the 2 lakes gets dry, and the water from Small Lake faster diminishes as it is an abyss inside. I saw a woodpecker, but it wasn't that gorgeous. Maybe it was its mate. This is the waterfall Saline. In spring, after the melting ice and snow, water accumulates in a reservoir below the Meded mountain peak, which drains into Black Lake. With the increase in the amounts of water in the reservoir, the water pressure increases. At maximum pressure, water emerges as a dozen wells with a huge burst. I think that probably means springs. This phenomenon occurs during the spring, usually in June. The greatest number of wells that feed the Black Lake is located in the small lake. Filling the lake takes 2 to 3 weeks, during which the lake has its highest level. The excess water flows out of the lake by River Otoka. Water from River Otoka ends in River Tara, while water from the small lake passes through depths and tunnels under the mountain and ends in River Piva. This geological phenomenon related to Black Lake is called bifurcation. In the sunshine, that's a rich turquoise color right on that spot. This is the far end of the lake. Smaller portion being behind that knob over there. I guess that this end of the lake is what they're calling Little or Small Lake, and that gap there is the gap that can be separate the lakes when the lake gets lower. That apparently is what we're listening to. Don't know if this round thing is connected to this monument here, dated 1942, 1943, 1970, and 1940. Probably represents great military. For whatever the reason, this big hotel, all abandoned, disrepair, process of disintegrating. Definitely some aggressive mating going on there. Okay, here's how I start the morning. I've got 3 bottles of water, one I'll drink between now and the time I get to the trailhead. And I got a small loaf of wheat bread, which is perfect for starting off the day. And then I'll take one of the bottles and carry it with me, and one of the bottles I'll cache on the trail to pick up on the way back. I've also got 2 apples, one in my pocket, one there, 2 pieces of cheese. This building, almost completed but not, stopped in mid construction for whatever reason. Long steep hike up from there. A little sign back there indicating this was the way to the 4 places they'd indicated with a sign at the bottom, but I can't find on the map. Little snake. You can see him. I don't want to disturb him much more than I have. But that head's just right inside there. So it's got a thick little body for his length. You can see his eye right there. He's looking straight at us, I think. There he is. So he's not very long, a snake. He's kind of hopped over onto that rock. Looks to have a little growth or something on the back there. Unless it's a young'un or something like that. In that case, it should be a she we're talking to. I think these are the 2 young fellows that I passed. They may be American or British. One's black, one's white. But I have absolutely no confidence of where I am. And if I'm where I think I might be, I'm a long ways past where I was supposed to be going, and not having a clue why I didn't see the relevant side trails that I was looking for. Anyway, this is a spectacular hike and makes for a spectacular. Somewhere over there, there must be a shepherd and his sheep, because I can hear the bells banging. Over this knob's where I saw those fellas, I think. There's a herd of sheep. And up there's the way back. It's the chief honcho right there, with the bell, and also the way his hair has been cropped or his wool has been cropped so he's visible. There's, I think, the sheep herder's shack and compound, and their backpackers' sleeping place, which is kind of neat to have up here because it must get wicked on occasion. We're in a big, deep cirque. I'll show you in just a moment. Notice that trail going up there? I don't think so. And notice that trail going down there? I don't think so either. But there's the lake. What's curious here to me is that it's such a shallow little lake and such a deep cone that appears to be completely closed in by these mountains. And this, I think, is part of the dynamic of the extreme amount of underground flow here, such that it actually creates a falls on occasion somewhere on this mountain. In the springtime, actually, they say in June. Pretty place to be. The tall herder there, talking to his sheep. Occasionally he whistles at them and then they all crank up because they recognize his voice and his whistle. Those are actually two backpackers, I think, coming down that I talked to, but he's up there somewhere. You hear him once in a while. I met him. Oh, there he is, way up on top. Big man. Indication of the underground caves and sinkholes and rivers that flow in this mountain. Are these gorgeously blue or what? Right now I've got a butterfly on the strap of my video camera, which is resting on my hand, and I'm waiting for him to leave so I can get a video of him. Into my hat, so. The guys are not terribly afraid. He jumped off a rock to get out of where I was going to step because I didn't see him, and he jumped right back on there. Now he's looking up at me. Beautiful place to hike. This beautiful tree must have broken off just from its weight being blown by a heavy wind. It's a pretty little lake. A couple of mallards out there. They seem to be all over the world. So this morning I again hiked from town here up along this loop, up along this little jog here, and then along here and down this way instead of up there to the lake yesterday, but down this way, past this intersection which I recognize, and down this route here. Now, at no time did I ever see this intersection, and I ended up apparently here. At least this is what they told me. I was here. And yet I never saw that intersection, and I never saw that intersection, either going up or specifically looking for it going down. So rather than run the risk of going up here, missing another intersection to get up to this cave here, and then take another trail from here down along here back to this intersection I never saw, that risk was too great. I just turned around and came back down, then hung a left and went back up to here along this road and down to this lake, which is where we're at now. Something new in the water, which I think is a leech, although it may have a more interesting name than that here. You wonder where these guys and fish and tadpoles and so forth think they're going with such alacrity. Maybe when he digs his head in like he did there, he's actually finding some critter or something else in amongst the rocks on the bottom. Always pleasant to sit on a log for half an hour or so and just look at the lake and enjoy the peacefulness. I'm assuming that this is where some of the town water comes from. Flows down this creek and then through this hollowed out log into that old pipe, through this house somehow, and apparently into that new plastic big pipe we saw. This pipe seems too high to be using the water from over there where that green house is. This is the pretty little lake that we looked at on yesterday's hike. Boat on or something like that. And here in the background is another big hotel that I think's been totally abandoned. Now we're leaving Zabla. Early morning exploration on this last day before I leave, and we'll go down this alley instead of when we came out that way into Trifon Square. The capital of Montenegro, not a very pretty city at all.